Week 2 of the NFL is in the books, and the Broncos still can't have shit. First up, the Vikings. Yeah, it's over. 7 turnovers. 7, and not even the first 7 quarters of this NFL season. The Vikings defense is the same as last year. No defensive line and no secondary. I love how people thought just by hiring Brian Flores that the Vikings defense would go from the worst defense in the NFL to one of the best, or at least a contending defense. Sadly, that's not how it works. Kirk Cousins is still good, and they still have a strong wide receiver core. It's just hard to win with just that, especially when you have 0 run game. Only 28 rushing yards for the Vikings on Thursday night. Hurts and the Eagles are still looking a bit rusty. They don't look like they're in their peak shape that they were in during last year's postseason, but I'm not worried. My strongest opinion about the NFL is that the difference between good teams and great teams is that great teams always find a way to win. Whether it takes rushing the ball 100 times in a row, the Eagles are still 2-0 heading into week 3, and they are going to continue winning. Also, DeAndre Swift had a great game. Yes, it was against the Vikings' non-existent defense, but if the Eagles can continue building big holes for DeAndre Swift to run through and he can stay healthy, maybe he'll finally have that full, complete, solid season. Josh Allen in the Bills' #1 scoring offense is back, and it's sad to say, but Josh McDaniels will probably never lead the Raiders to any sort of success. Allen and the Bills will most likely continue dominating teams throughout the regular season. The big question is can they get it done in the postseason? But that's still a long ways away. For now, Bills fans, just enjoy it because a lot of people don't even get to enjoy the regular season. The Colts and the Texans. Richardson out with concussion, looked decent until he went out. Colts take the win, obviously, against the Texans. They should take the win. The Texans are still rebuilding, but CJ Stroud looked pretty good. Over 300 passing yards, no interceptions. Again, it was against the Colts. Don't really know much yet, but maybe CJ Stroud will be the first Ohio State quarterback to perform in the NFL. Maybe. Bears and the Buccaneers. Oh, where do we begin, Bears fans? We saw a ton of Justin Fields supporters before week 1. A little bit less after week 1. And now I have not seen any Justin Fields support anywhere. I feel bad, but people are finally coming to their senses that Justin Fields is not him. The Bears coaching staff is not it. The Bears, they have nothing going for them. Last year they had Justin Fields is good, but the team sucks once Justin Fields has weapons and better people around him. Then the Bears will be good, but now they don't even have that to cope. Fields drops back slow, misses open targets down the field, only checks it down, and that pick 6, I'm sorry, but I laughed pretty hard. On the other side of the ball, Baker Mayfield and the Bucs looking pretty good, starting out 2-0. Who would have thought? Definitely not me. Mayfield had 317 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. His connection with Mike Evans is looking lethal as he had 171 yards on 6 receptions and a touchdown. Honestly, I want the Bears to trade Justin Fields. I'd like to see him play on another team, but at the same time, I don't want the Bears to tank for Caleb Williams and ruin another talent. The Bears haven't won a game since week 7 of last year. Put your predictions in now. Mine is that they win week 10 against the Panthers. Falcons are continuing their strategy of a super strong powerhouse offense with no defense, and it seems to be working once again as they start the season 2-0, taking down the Packers. I just want to take a quick break and remind everyone that I'm extremely unbiased when it comes to talking about sports on this channel. Even as a diehard Lions fan, I would never let my emotions get the best of me, and I would never spread hate onto any team. Back to the Falcons-Packers game. The Packers threw away this win. Fuck the Packers. It felt great to have this after the Lions lost. Green Bay went into the 4th quarter with a 12-point lead, up 24-12, and threw it all the way as they would go on to punt on their next 2 drives and then turn the ball over on downs. The Falcons ran the ball 45 times for over 200 yards. Bijan Robinson is him, had over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown on 19 carries. I know the Packers were without a ton of players, but when you have a 12-point lead going into the 4th quarter, you have to win those games. KC taking on Jacksonville. This was a revenge game for the Jags after KC knocked them out of the playoffs in a close game at Arrowhead, and it was ugly. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags were 0-3 in the red zone. KC, 12 penalties, 3 turnovers. But as I said earlier, great teams find a way to win, and that's what Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs did here, taking their first dub of the season. Even though it was ugly, I'm sure nobody is doubting the potential of this Chiefs team. This is a tough divisional loss for Jacksonville, though. When you have a game like this at home and your divisional rival falls apart and you're only able to put up 9 points offensively, it's gonna sting, especially because there's big playoff implications from that game. The Chargers and the Titans. Fire Brandon Staley. Fire him. Get rid of him. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You will never recover from blowing a 27-point lead in the playoffs. You'll never recover from that. I don't see how the Chargers will ever be successful with their defensive-minded coach, Brandon Staley. He's just so defensive-minded, just has the best defensive schemes. The Chargers got shredded up by Ryan Tannehill. Who's playing ahead of Malik Willis and Will Levis. The Chargers have had 2 close games so far this season, and again, the difference between a good team and a great team is that great teams always find a way to win. The Chargers had a chance to beat the Dolphins on a final drive. They had the ball first in overtime, couldn't get it done. When will Justin Herbert have this breakout year that everyone is waiting for? The Seattle Seahawks taking on the Detroit Lions. Man, I gotta review this game. Jerry Jacobs and the whole Lions defense, but mainly Jerry Jacobs was exposed. Jerry Jacobs gave up 13 receptions, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns. Man, the Lions need Emmanuel Mosley stat. Additionally, the Lions front 7 were unable to reach Geno Smith whatsoever at any point during this game, with a banged up Seattle offensive line without 3 starters. Damn. 2 easy turnovers turned into 14 easy points for Seattle. The Lions had a few drops. It was ugly. Hopefully they can bounce back against the Falcons, but they're going to be dealing with a lot of injuries. Rip the ski masks. For the Seahawks, after a rough week 1 performance, Geno Smith came out and balled over 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Kenneth Walker had not too many yards, only 40, but 2 touchdowns, and the amount of missed tackles he had was absurd. It'll be interesting to see how Seattle's season continues. They own the Lions. Will be interesting to see how the Lions season continues. At least their offense is still top tier, right? I'm coping. Jump into another one of the weekend's divisional rivalry matchups. The Ravens taking on the Bengals. Rest in peace, Joe Shiesty. Pretty much Joe Burrow collected a bag and dipped. Did you guys know, by the way, that Joe Burrow got a new haircut before this game? I told y'all the Ravens were going to beat the Bengals in the jungle. If you remember back to last year during the wild card round, the Ravens against the Bengals in Cincy, the Ravens without Lamar Jackson, they would have won if the Ravens didn't call that stupid play at the 1-yard line, having Tyler Huntley jump over the line of scrimmage for no reason. That's a Lamar play call. Tyler Huntley, if you didn't know, is not Lamar Jackson. The Bengals return it for 99 yards, win the game by a touchdown. But Joe Burrow so far this season, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns to a bad red zone interception. I know the Bengals started out 0-2 last year, but it's going to be interesting to see can they turn it around and how well they can turn it around. The Ravens are looking pretty strong, defensively pretty good, and Lamar Jackson made some really good throws. If he can continue to make the good throws, be a passing quarterback, and stay healthy all while running the ball like he does, the Ravens will be good. The Giants and the Cardinals, man. The Giants pulled through in the 4th quarter after being down 28-7. But they're not scaring anyone. It was against the Cardinals. I don't see this Giants team having a winning season whatsoever. I don't think saying this is going to haunt my future. Otherwise, that'd be embarrassing. But just from watching them twice, they're not scaring anybody. They're still bad like last year, except this year, they're not lucky. And again, Saquon Barkley is hurt. It's not too serious, but I don't think it really matters much as the offensive line can't even block for Saquon Barkley whatsoever. It is sad though, because I've always been hoping for a big breakout season from Saquon Barkley, and I just don't think we're ever gonna get it as long as he's on the Giants. The Rams and 49ers. Every single LA Rams fan packed SoFi Stadium, all 10 of you, and it was essentially a home game for the 49ers. I expected a solid game with the 49ers pulling away with the win, and that's what we got. Matthew Stafford and the Rams are playing solid football even without key players on both sides of the ball. And for the 49ers, they are looking like they are the best team in football right now, and Brock Purdy is him. Stafford did have 2 interceptions in this game. One wasn't his fault, was a drop pass, really hurt the Rams. The other one, definitely his fault, really hurt the Rams. The biggest storyline from this game though, wide receiver Puka Nacua. I'm sure all of you are scrambling to see if he's available in your fantasy league. Jokes on all of you, I picked him up after week 1. Nacua has been setting NFL records, was the first wide receiver to record 25 receptions in his first 2 games, has over 266 yards so far this season, 147 yesterday. Stafford has been feeding him the rock, and when Cooper Kupp's back, they should be a strong duo. The Jets and the Cowboys, this is what everyone expected would happen. Zach Wilson went up against the scariest defense in the NFL, threw 3 picks. Dak Prescott, pretty solid game, 255 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, still has yet to throw an interception this year. I'm proud of my boy. Sauce Gardner deactivated his Instagram after he got cooked. Will be interesting to see, can Zach Wilson develop a bit more, play some solid football, and maybe lead the Jets to a playoff appearance? And Aaron Rodgers says he might be able to come back if he listens to enough Dolphin noises to play during the playoffs. I'm excited to find out. The Broncos and Commanders, Denver can't have shit, even with Sean Payton as head coach. After the exciting Hail Mary to go down by 2 as time expired, needing a 2-point conversion to tie the game, it was definitely pass interference in the end zone, a bad no call, but the Broncos threw a 21-3 lead at home against a Sam Howell-led Commanders offense. That's bad. Can the Broncos recover and get their first win of the season against the Dolphins next week? Probably not. My biggest takeaway from this game is that, again, Russell Wilson's red zone presence, goal line presence is just not good. He's unable to find the open man when they're deep in the red zone. For the Commanders, now 2-0 with their fairly solid team. I'm expecting a similar season to last year, maybe 9-8. Just maybe they sneak into the wild card round of the playoffs. Sunday Night Football, the Dolphins taking on the Patriots. The Patriots have had 2 tough opponents, the Eagles and the Dolphins, has kept both of those games close. It is the first time they have started 0-2 since 2001, and that year Tom Brady took over as QB week 3. Even though they're 0-2 and not the best team, they're still pretty solid and will probably win 5 or 6 games. For the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel is looking amazing with his schemes. Tua is looking like the best quarterback in the NFL right now as he takes his team to 2-0. And we've all heard the storyline that Tyreek Hill wants 2,000 yards this season. He didn't have quite the 200-yard performance as he did in week 1, as he only had 40 yards.
What is working so well offensively?
I haven't done anything.
Monday Night Football, the NFL blessed us with not 1, but 2 boring-ass matchups. That's a bit harsh, but the first game of the night, the Saints and Panthers, just wasn't super exciting. Derek Carr and the Saints looked alright. There were some bad turnovers on both sides of the ball. Bryce Young played alright, 22 of 33, a touchdown. Did turn the ball over 3 times, which is pretty rough. There's just not a ton of talent around him, and the Panthers offensively kept stalling out and had to settle for field goals. At least Bryce Young led a last-second touchdown drive to make the score a little bit more respectable. The Saints do have a good defense. We'll see how Bryce Young continues to develop. Derek Carr and the Saints are now 2-0, except to me, they're not really a super scary 2-0 team. However, their defense is pretty solid. It just depends on how well Derek Carr can play. And for the second Monday night game, Deshaun Watson and the Browns taking on the Steelers. I've been praying on Watson's downfall, and it's been paying off as they threw a pick 6 on the first play of the game. It was exciting to watch, but both teams are just playing out terrible. The Browns defense is pretty good. The Steelers defense is pretty good, but offensively, both these teams are trash. It was a fumble fest. Neither team could hold on to the ball. The only reason the Steelers won was because Watson handed them 14 points with 2 defensive touchdowns. Kenny Pickett was not winning this game. If your favorite team plays the Steelers or Browns soon, get excited because your team should roll through them. The Steelers and Browns just have some decent defenses that can make some plays, but besides that, awful teams. And Deshaun Watson, terrible person, terrible player, can't make a read for shit, can't make a good throw for shit, worst decision maker, continues to take sacks, and had 2 face mask penalties in this game. 2. How does a quarterback have those? He was just grabbing people's face masks and just ripping them to the ground, blatant, just did not care. Anyway, that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed my content, I would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Once again, thanks for watching. Fuck Deshaun Watson. I'm praying on his downfall.